Well, conservatives, it's over. After being decisively defeated by former President Donald Trump in Iowa, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis dropped out of the 2024 Republican presidential nominating contest, and it appears that Trump will become the GOP presidential nominee for the third consecutive election cycle. But was Trump the best choice for conservatives? Consider these questions. Do you take issue with some of the massive federal spending that went on during Trump's presidential tenure? And do you think that he should have wielded the power of the veto more? Are you wary of the mRNA COVID-19 vaccines? And are you dissatisfied with Trump's comments on the issue? Would you like him to acknowledge the possibility that they could be dangerous and perhaps that they've been harmful or even deadly for some people? Are you pro-life? If you have been bothered by some of, if you are pro-life, like, have you been bothered by some of Trump's comments on the issue of abortion? I would suggest that if you answer yes to those questions, Trump was not the best candidate for conservatives, and that DeSantis would probably have been a better choice. Perhaps Trump's decisive victory over DeSantis offers a sad commentary on the state of the conservative movement and the Republican Party. But this is where we are, so what now? At this point, I plan to vote for Trump in the general election if he ends up being the GOP nominee. As conservatives, we can and we should advocate for Trump to govern with conservative principles, and and speak out, if he fails to do so. And of course, that also goes for any Republican. Another Trump presidency would be better than what we have right now. I think we can assume that. So in this episode, I'll be covering the presidential race, some stuff about the border crisis, the NFL promoting the LGBT agenda, and an awful proposal from left-wing California State Senator Scott Wiener. If you enjoy these Saturday live streams, please hit the like button and also leave a comment saying what state you're watching the show from. And thank you to all of you who do hit that like button and leave a comment. So let me go ahead and get into the show here. So, like I said, and I'm sure you guys have heard, DeSantis dropped out. I even had a little separate video on this on Sunday when it happened, but here's a little clip if you haven't seen it, or if you just need to be refreshed. Whoops. Hello. No sound. There we go.
Could do to produce a favorable outcome, more campaign stops, more interviews, I would do it. But I can't ask our supporters to volunteer their time and donate their resources if we don't have a clear path to victory. Accordingly, I am today suspending my campaign. I'm proud to have delivered on 100% of my promises, and I will not stop now. It's clear to me that a majority of Republican primary voters want to give Donald Trump another chance. They watch his presidency get stymied by relentless resistance, and they see Democrats using lawfare this day to attack him. Well, I've had disagreements with Donald Trump, such as on the coronavirus pandemic and his elevation of Anthony Fauci. Trump is superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear.
That is clear. And, so yeah, he didn't just drop out. He dropped out and he endorsed Trump. So all we have left now is Nikki Haley, who obviously is not going to be Trump. I did want to just note for everybody here that this doesn't necessarily mean you've seen the end of DeSantis because, well, first of all, he's going to be governor for a few more years here in Florida, but also Ronald Reagan ran for president and lost in 1976. He did not get the GOP presidential nomination in 1976, but obviously the rest is history. He went on in 1980 to get the nomination and become president, So he served as president from 1981 to early 1981 to early 1989, won the 1980 election. So, and then the next election as well. So who knows? Maybe DeSantis could end up running and winning again at some point in the future. But yeah, that's historical information for you. Also, he'd been calling Trump had been calling DeSantis DeSanctimonious and DeSanctus. But now he says that name has been retired.
He just said, will I be using the name Ron DeSanctimonious? I said, that name is officially retired.
Yeah, so he doesn't need to attack him anymore now, so yeah. Now, DeSantis was on The Blaze on Steve Deese's show. Just FYI, if you don't remember, I actually am a staff writer for The Blaze. That's what my job is. I've never actually met Steve Deese, nor have I ever actually been to the Blaze studios because I work from Florida and they're in Texas. Steve Deese is actually in Iowa, I think. But anyway, so I just want to show you some clips of some of what DeSantis said here. This is just kind of this is what could have been. We could have had this guy as our nominee, but no. But here's some stuff about what he had to say when he was on with Steve Deese.
They rail against the administrative state. They rail against the weaponization. They rail against the open border. And then they turn around in the same breath and they fund all of this stuff affirmatively. It's one thing if you're fighting and you lose a political battle because you don't have enough numbers. But it's another thing when you're ratifying the things that our voters find most offensive.
So obviously he's talking about Republicans there. Let me show you some more here. Other clips.
You'd have establishment Republicans spending millions of dollars talking about how conservative they are in like a primary. Then they get up to D.C. and it's business as usual. So I think our voters, they're sick of having Lucy pull the football, from Charlie Brown. And that's what's happened time and time again. So I think what the Freedom Caucus is doing is just trying to get the whole party in line with what the sentiment of our voters is. And I don't think, like, if you were way outside what the voters wanted, then fine, people could criticize you. But the reality is it's the majority of the Republican conference up there that is not following through on what our voters want to see.
So, yeah, I mean, you can hear him giving voice to frustration that I think a lot of conservatives feel, which is that we have all these Republicans, but we need more conservatives. They're not governing in the conservative way that we conservatives like me would want them to. One more clip for you here.
But one of the regrets I have about kind of how 24 is turning out is I don't see at the federal level there being any avenue for COVID accountability. I think that, you're going to have two major candidates that just want to pretend like everything was hunky-dory. And I know in both of those presidents made serious mistakes. And here's the thing. It's not about using it for fodder in a political campaign. It's about ensuring that this never happens to our country ever again.
So we could have had DeSantis, but no, it looks like we're going to have Trump again. And just, for your information over here, doesn't it seem like it wasn't too long ago we were passing the $34 trillion mark on the national debt? Because look at this. Now we're past $34.1 trillion. It's just going up and up and up. And this is not just a Democrat problem, okay? This is a Republican, and it's a bipartisan problem. It's a Republican and a Democrat problem. Because, like DeSantis is talking about, and I've talked about, like, Republicans do not govern in the conservative fashion with which voters like me would want them to govern in. And so it's not that it's just Democrats passing large spending bills and wasting money and failing to stop this out-of-control government spending. Republicans are also to blame there as well. And when people complain about Biden inflation, some of the inflation that we've been experiencing over the last few years is probably in large part due to the massive spending during the COVID pandemic that was passed during the end of Trump's administration by Congress and that Trump signed off on. So Republicans and Democrats are to blame for the out of control national debt and stuff like and inflation, all that kind of stuff, I think. Okay, so just, I mean, what's going on here with the presidential election? Well, like I said, DeSantis dropped out. He dropped out a while after coming in second in Iowa. He came in a distant second place. I mean, he wasn't even, he wasn't very close to Trump. Trump destroyed him. And then a while later, he dropped out ahead of, before they had the New Hampshire Republican primary, DeSantis dropped out. So Trump goes up against Nikki Haley and wins. And you can see here, here's some results. It was, not too close. I mean, he had a pretty good victory. I mean, she was closer than she was in Iowa, but I think. But so she didn't do great. It wasn't horrible. But anyway, so he beat her. And but she might be down, but she is not getting out. She is not dropping out of the race, even though she's probably never going to win any of the states.
This race is far from over. There are dozens of states left to go.
She's probably not going to win any of them, but so she's talked about South Carolina, and that South Carolina will be happening next month. Obviously she used to be the governor of South Carolina, but I think she's probably going to lose there. So, also we have Trump calling Kayleigh McEnany, who, if you remember, was served during his White House tenure as a White House press secretary for part of his time in the White House. And he's calling her RINO Kayleigh McEnany. Now, here's a clip that may have been what led to him saying that.
It's actually a fairly good night for Joe Biden. When you look at our voter analysis, only 10% said, I would not vote for Joe Biden if he's the nominee. He won a plurality of voters who said he was too old. He won a majority of voters who are upset about the Gaza war. So the divides in the Democrat Party, and this is a small sample size, but perhaps aren't as stark as one would think. But when you look at the Republican Party, 7 in 10 Nikki Haley voters said, I would not vote for Trump. There was the Des Moines Register poll, 43% said, No, I wouldn't vote for Trump. If I'm Trump, I sit back and I exclusively focus on the general election. I take the posture of a presumptive nominee. I focus on number one, uniting the party, and number two, winning the independents, which Nikki Haley won 55 to 39%. That's what I would do. Nikki Haley, I mean, the closest margin is 30% in the states ahead. For all intents and purposes, he's the presumptive nominee.
You know,
So you can see what Trump said here is, I don't need any advice from RINO. Kayleigh McEnany on Fox just had a giant victory over badly failing candidate Bird Brain. That's what he's been calling Nikki Haley. And she's telling me I can do better. Save your advice for Nikki. Oh, and she's telling me what I can do better is what Trump said. So now, he previously, this was back in May 2023, he referred to her as Kayleigh Milquetoast McEnany. So yeah, there's that. All right, so I'm going to talk about a bit about the border here. You know, there's been a lot of coverage about that, probably on the news. But so we have the December number came out for Southwest land border encounters from U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and that number is over 300,000, over 302,000 here. You can see here, this is a CBP press release. It says, in December 2023, the U.S. Border Patrol recorded 249,785 encounters between ports of entry along the southwest border. CBP's total encounters along the southwest border in December were 302,034. Here we have a statement from President Joe Biden, actually in which he uses the term border crisis. So we even have Biden using the term border crisis now. In fact, twice in this statement, you can see the statement from Biden. It actually has the term border crisis in the statement. So that seems like a change in tone from the Biden administration. This is Border Patrol Chief Jason Owens, and he puts out, they have tweets on his account talking about what's going on here with the border issue. Look at this. This says U.S. Border Patrol agents in Del Rio, Texas and Rio Grande Valley, Texas nabbed 2 child sex offenders with prior felony convictions. These subjects were caught trying to re-enter the U.S. illegally. Agents being out on patrol is what stopped them from getting to your communities. The issue with the border issue, it is a public safety issue. And I mean, I've talked, you know, it's this issue of child sex offenders or of deadly drugs coming into the country and stuff. You need to control who comes in the country so that nefarious actors who are, you know, committing horrible crimes are not coming into the U.S. You know, some people that are trying to come into the U.S. are probably nice people, want to work hard and just want to live the American dream. Other people are like, you know, people you do not want in this country, like child sex offenders. And that seems to be a recurring problem with the southern border thing, is the child sex offenders coming through. Here's another tweet from Chief Jason Owens. It says, U.S. Border Patrol agents in El Paso, Texas arrested a La Linea cartel foot guide. The subject has an extensive immigration history with over 40 illegal entries in the past 2 years. Then he said, hopefully the courts impose maximum sentences, the only consequences these criminals understand. Here's another one from Chief Jason Owens. It says, two U.S. Border Patrol agents in Laredo, Texas were assaulted during 2 separate events. One agent was nearly run over by a tractor trailer during a high-speed flight from the checkpoint. The other was struck by a resistant subject. And then he said in fiscal year 2024 alone, U.S. Border Patrol agents have been assaulted 108 times. So, yeah, I mean, the border thing has become a focal point of the news. Hopefully, Republicans will, you know, really leverage all this attention that's going on this issue and actually get something done to secure the border. But it is a public safety, national security issue, because aside from what I was talking about with the crime and stuff, obviously there's the possible risk of terrorists coming in. I mean, it's important to know who's coming in and control who's coming in so that you're only letting people in that you have checked out. All right, so the NFL promoting the LGBT agenda. So yeah, the NFL has been promoting the LGBT agenda for years. Specifically, what I wrote about this week at the Blaze is, I forgot to mention this. Well, okay, I'll go back to this, since I apparently had my tabs out of order. So real quick before I get on to the NFL, I forgot to mention the fentanyl thing. This is the Drug Enforcement Administration website, and they're talking about, they say the Sinaloa cartel and Jalisco cartel are largely responsible for the fentanyl flowing into the country. And they say the cartels purchase chemicals from companies in China, mass produce the fentanyl in Mexico, and then traffic and distribute the finished fentanyl widely throughout the United States. So I was just going to mention that. All right, so anyway, sorry, I'm out of order there. So the NFL, I wrote about this week. They have announced their 3rd annual Night of Pride with GLAAD. Now, if you're not familiar with GLAAD, it's a pro-LGBT advocacy group. And here you can see it says that the National Football League will host the third annual A Night of Pride with GLAAD presented by Smirnoff, blah, 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 during Super Bowl week. You can see it says sponsored by Smirnoff, A Night of Pride with GLAAD also includes a panel discussion on how inclusion in sports advances the acceptance for LGBTQ people, featuring blah, blah. So, and where is it? Somewhere in here, it mentions Google, actually. There it is. It says, a feature, okay, this is where I was, featuring NFL legend Carl Nassib. Additional partners for the evening include Starter and Google. Now, they mentioned this is the third annual, so this has happened before. And I remember, I wrote about this video I'm about to show you. I wrote about this for Just the News years ago. I used to work at Just the News before I worked at The Blaze. That's John Solomon's thing. And so they actually had this video that basically says football is gay, football is bisexual. Let me show you that. There you go. There's there is that rainbow NFL logo right there. So yeah. And also, here you can see on the NFL.com/causes/pride. So yeah, they actually have a section for that. And they say our partners. It says the NFL provides financial support and collaboration with a host of different organizations that serve the LGBTQ community, including GLAAD, the Trevor Project, Athlete Ally, the National Gay Flag Football League, and Covenant House. Their collective work comes to life at various events via social media campaigns, through PSAs, via charitable contributions, and more. The league also works with local LGBTQ plus organizations surrounding NFL events, including Super Bowl in each host city. So, I don't care about the NFL, I don't watch football, and I don't have any interest in watching football. But a lot of people do, and a lot of those people are probably conservatives, and some of those people probably would not appreciate this. But just FYI for anybody out there who does care about football and who is interested in it, the NFL is totally in the tank for the LGBT agenda, just like most big brands and businesses are. I've talked about that before on the show. Most major brands and businesses are totally in the tank for the LGBT movement. So that includes the NFL. Okay, here's another thing I'm going to talk about here. Vivek Ramaswamy, who dropped out of the presidential race and has endorsed Trump, he basically has proposed an idea that he says if a woman gets pregnant, he believes that the father, if confirmed that he is the father by a paternity test, should be basically required, or the woman should be able to require him by law to provide full financial support for her and the baby. So that the father should be required to provide financial support, full financial support for the mother and the child until the child turns 18. Let me show you a clip of this.
Is that I think if a woman brings a child to term, she should be able to make the man financially responsible for both her and the child if she does it, period. And that should be the law of the land.
That happens, though. No,
it doesn't happen today. Not to the scale I'm talking about. Full
That's
financial.
What child support is.
It's you do 50-50. You got 40% for the man. I'm talking about 100%. So it's 2x over. He's fully responsible for the woman and fully responsible for the child.
She has to
because her responsibility. She took 9 months to actually bring the child to term. If it's confirmed with a genetic paternity test. So right now, today, 40 years ago,
he has full responsibility until the child's 18.
Absolutely, and full responsibility for the woman during that time.
I don't think that's bad.
I don't think.
So, what do you think about that? Do you think it's a good idea? It might. I don't know, how it would work out in real life, but it does seem like that it is the natural order of things, and that it is the way God designed it. If you're a man and you get someone pregnant, you should be responsible for taking care of that person financially and that baby. Now, obviously, I think the way it's designed, the way it should be, is that you should have been married already before that baby happened. But obviously, that doesn't happen all the time. But it does seem like it's like the natural order of things that, the man should be responsible for providing for the child and the mother. But let me know what you think about all that. All right, last thing here. You may have heard of this guy before. This is Scott Wiener. He's a state senator in California. He is liberal. He has proposed a horrible proposal to basically limit the speed of vehicles to not be able to go more than 10 miles per hour over the speed limit. So basically, if you're driving a car, what this legislation basically talks about is preventing you from going more than 10 miles per hour over the speed limit. And it seems like that might also involve GPS technology that can track the location of the car so that it can compare that with a database of speed limits so that it can determine what, like, basically your car will be like, okay, I know I'm on Main Street, and I know that on Main Street, based on this database, the speed limit is X, and therefore I can't go faster than 10 miles per hour over X. Look at this. It says, as used in this article, intelligent speed limiter system means an integrated vehicle system that uses at minimum the GPS location of the vehicle compared with a database of posted speed limits to determine the speed limit and electronically limits the speed of the vehicle to prevent the driver from exceeding the speed limit by more than 10 miles per hour. Does that sound like Big Brother, or does that sound like Big Brother? It's like Big Brother on top of more Big Brother. Like, not only is it stopping you from going fast, it's like this nanny state California stuff, but on top of that, we also might be tracking you. So that, I mean, when I say we, I don't know if that data will be going out to anywhere else, but it's kind of creepy. The idea of the car tracking GPS and then like all this stuff. Now it says, commencing with the 2027 model year, every passenger vehicle, motor truck, and bus manufacturer sold in the state, California we're talking about, shall be equipped with an intelligent speed limiter system. And it says an intelligent speed limiter system required by this section shall operate passively and shall only be capable of being temporarily disabled by the driver of the vehicle. So that kind of makes it sound like, and if you look at his press release, it does kind of make it sound like the driver will be able to temporarily disable it. So maybe if there was an emergency for some reason you need to speed up. But okay, even in that case, say all you had to do is hit a button while you're driving and it goes off for a minute or whatever. What if that split second it takes you to turn it off is the difference between life and death, or the difference between no accident and an accident? This is a terrible idea. It's a terrible idea. It also says that it wouldn't apply to vehicles sold as an authorized emergency vehicle. So obviously an ambulance wouldn't be speed limited, because I guess even Scott Wiener recognizes that would be ridiculous. So, and it does say that an intelligent speed limiter system may be disabled on any authorized emergency vehicle or any vehicle for which written authorization has been received by the commissioner. Anyway, let me know what you think about that. I can't imagine anyone watching this video would think this is a good idea. If you do, please explain to me why you think this is a good idea. I think the argument that Wiener's making is that the speed will cause accidents and that this will help reduce accidents. But if your goal is to reduce accidents and you don't care about a nanny state, why not just make the speed limit 20 miles per hour everywhere and nobody can go over 20 miles an hour anywhere ever? It's just there's a certain amount of risk with living in freedom. Okay, freedom does cause risk, and so there are speed limits, and you're supposed to follow them, and you already get penalized for not following them. You can get a ticket if you're not following it. So do we really want to actually physically prevent people from exceeding the speed limit and all this kind of stuff? I say this is a not great plan. But yeah, so let me know what you think about that. All right, so that is it. Perseverance 777 said, God bless you, Alex. Thank you for that. And so anyway, thank you all for watching this. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed the show. Subscribe to the channel. Follow me over on X, the platform previously known as Twitter. And also check out the channel for the little video clip I did about DeSantis dropping out if you haven't seen that already. But thank you all for watching this. I will see you next Saturday for another live episode, if not sooner. Have a great rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.